Will the Dow keep up its hot pace after scoring its best week since January? In today's cover story, legacy lost, how the recession is cutting into family inheritances. Plus, tough times are driving motorists to rent car parts and the stock that could become the buy of the week. First Business starts now.
You're watching First Business. Financial news, analysis, and today's investment ideas.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, September 16th. I'm Angela Miles. In today's first look, stocks in Syria. The market could react today to the latest developments on the Syrian crisis situation. President Obama spoke about possible outcomes in an interview that aired Sunday morning. Last week, the Dow logged its best week since January. Friday, the Dow rose 75 points, the Nasdaq gained 6, and the S&P 500 5. Gold lost more shine, and oil closed around $108 per barrel. Fed taper talk. The market will also be on edge this week as the Federal Reserve meets, with comments coming from Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke. Ulta glams up Wall Street after delivering blowout earnings news. Shares of the cosmetics company soared 17% on Friday. And rising cocoa butter costs are beginning to sweeten chocolate prices, especially in China, where the candy is in high demand. Scott Bauer, Trading Advantage, joins us now from the trading floor. This is a big week for traders, especially with the Fed meeting coming up.
It sure is.
What do you think is likely to happen?
Well, it looks like the market is really pricing in some reduction in TARP pairs. Some reduction, probably somewhere between 10 to 20 billion a month. If that happens, you may see just a little bit of a sell-off, but then I would think that the market would keep this acceleration, keep the momentum going higher.
Scott, gold was slammed last week. What do you anticipate for this week? There's even a call that we could see gold at $1,000 per ounce or less.
Yeah, and we were seeing a bunch of those calls, over the summer and a few months ago when we saw gold dip, down below 1,200, 1,100. I think that we've seen just this pullback here in the hopes, not even just the hopes, but just the fact that we're going to see a tapering. $1,000, that's really kind of out of the realm, at least in the near future. If someone wants to make that call, for a year, 2 years down the road, that's one thing. But there's a lot of hard stops coming in here in the low 1,200s in gold.
As Twitter moves ahead with its IPO plans, are there social media stocks that you would buy that could get a bounce?
Well, I think you have the camp that's going to be very cautious about Twitter because of what happened with Facebook. And then I think you have the camp that says, well, look at Facebook. Yeah, it took a year. It took its hit. It was difficult, but look where it is now. So I think that social media is back in play. I think that Twitter, I think Pandora, which we've seen last week, boy, we saw that thing up, 15, 20%. I think those are a couple good ones. But social media is here to stay, at least for the short run.
Good point. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Ange.
Wall Street will listen closely for comments related to a taper timeline when the Federal Reserve announces its decision on interest rates Wednesday. A majority of economists and traders believe that the policymakers are ready to pull back on the $85 billion per month purchase of bonds. The quantitative easing is helping to stimulate the economy by keeping interest rates low, which is of great concern to money managers.
We have to worry because obviously they're a big buyer of treasuries and they've been keeping an artificial level of interest rates. So by having them move away, I think is a good thing. And having them give us a lot of advance warning is even better. And so I don't see them moving anytime soon quickly, but just incrementally.
This month's Federal Open Market Committee decision will be followed by a news conference with Fed Chair Ben Bernanke.
Congress is running short on time. The government could partially shut down if Congress fails to come up with a spending bill by September 30th. Shortly after that, lawmakers need to decide if they will raise the nation's debt limit or allow the country to default on its loans. White House aides said last week the president is willing to accept a bill that keeps spending at sequester levels for 3 more months, but not if it slashes programs that benefit families in need. Republicans signal they want major spending reforms.
The FBI is now feeling the effects of the sequester, and it's having an impact on the agency's ability to accomplish its mission. That's according to its new director. James Comey remarked that he doesn't think the public knows enough about the fallout from the budget cuts. Comey wants Americans to know that his agency is losing 3,000 positions, and next year the agency may have to furlough all FBI employees for 2 weeks.
President Obama is replacing his chief economic advisor, Gene Sperling, who leaves in January, with Jeffrey Zients. Zients is filling in as an acting budget director. He led a White House push to streamline government and joined the White House in 2009 as the chief performance officer.
Some California workers are getting a pay bump. California's State Assembly and Senate approved raising the state's minimum wage from $8 to $10 within 3 years. It'll be one of the highest rates in the nation, surpassing the top-paying state of Washington, where workers earn $9.19 an hour. It's the first minimum wage increase in 6 years for the Golden State.
Americans are cautiously spending their money. Retail sales rose 0.2% in August, just shy of the 0.4% gain economists predicted. Spending was brisk on items such as cars, furniture, and electronics, but sales slowed at home improvement stores and clothing stores.
Two major airlines are having a rough ride. United is honoring free fares that were accidentally available to customers for 15 minutes last week. A fortunate passenger who snagged the deals will only have to pay a few dollars for an airline security fee. United blames human error on the snafu, and dozens of JetBlue flights were delayed when a computer glitch limited that airline's ability to dispatch jets.
Carnival Cruise is offering a money-back guarantee to passengers. It's a way to boost bookings following a series of mishaps on the high seas. If customers are not happy with their vacation, they can end their trip early, get a 110% refund, transportation expenses will be covered, and the guests will get a $100 ship credit. One of the more prominent problems for Carnival happened back in March when an engine fire stranded passengers on a ship adrift for about 5 days.
A man on a mission from Australia is leading a protest in Chicago today to stop McDonald's from building a restaurant in his town. And he's armed with 50 inflatable kangaroos. Gary Muratori lives in Tacoma, Australia, which borders a national park. The town has 2,000 residents, but Muratori has collected nearly 100,000 petition signatures. Muratori intends to hand the petitions to McDonald's CEO Don Thompson. The demonstration is scheduled to happen outside Chicago's Rock and Roll McDonald's.
In a big win for health and environmental advocates, Walmart will stop selling products containing 10 hazardous chemicals. It applies to cosmetics, fragrances, household cleaners, and personal care products. The nation's largest retailer says starting in January, it will monitor efforts to clear those chemicals from store shelves. It will also apply the new rules to its own brand of cleaning products and will require suppliers to disclose products containing harsh chemicals.
The NFL is fielding brain injury claims from assistant coaches, network analysts, and front office personnel. More than 90% of the claims are reported by the LA Times to allege serious head or brain trauma. The NFL is facing a serious problem as a large number of workers seek compensation after being hurt in football incidents. Critics fear players will seek government aid, which hits taxpayers. However, compensation cases are the responsibility of the employer or insurance companies, not taxpayers.
Fidelity is known as the king of 401k plans, but now some investors are suing over pricey mutual funds. Employees working for several large corporations argue in this lawsuit Fidelity stocked their company 401k plan with expensive mutual funds when less expensive funds were available. Fidelity manages hundreds of mutual funds from low end to high. A spokesman tells reporters the lawsuit is totally without merit.
In our cover story, the phrase from your rich relative, "all this will be yours," refers lately to a shrinking slice of the pie. The inheritance has inherited some shortcomings thanks to the recession and cutbacks in employee pensions.
When I die, my son, all this will be yours.
The 1966 movie The Wrong Box talked openly about inheritance.
Yes, Father.
But particularly for Americans, most discussion of inheritance has gone downhill ever since.
It's the kids, the nieces, the nephews. They don't want to talk about when Nana's not going to be here. And so they just shut them down, and therefore they don't know, and they don't have those kinds of conversations.
A study commissioned by financial website Interest.com found only 27% of Americans under 60 expect to receive an inheritance. The recession took a big bite of retirement funds, and employer pensions aren't what they used to be.
If you don't do it, nobody's going to do it for you right now.
But the study found a surprising 42% said they wouldn't blow it all on an expensive luxury. What would you do with it?
Pay off my debt. That's it.
Probably invest it. Put it in a portfolio, a stock portfolio.
Of those who expect an inheritance, most figured it would be between $10,000 and $50,000. The survey also looked at 401k accounts and found that the average balance is about $80,000. An inheritance, even a small amount, can make a difference.
If you can sock that away and really forget about it, that 50 will become 100, will become 200, will become 400, and it will become a retirement down the road for somebody. It's the best thing you can do with those types of funds.
You just do not want to get to 65 and be dependent solely on Social Security. The average Social Security payment for a retiree in this country is about $1,250 a month.
Personal savings rates have changed a lot since the 1970s, when roughly 14% of every paycheck was put away. Now it's about 5%, according to Interest.com.
Traders and investors are anxiously awaiting the opportunity to jump on the Twitter IPO. The social media company revealed last week with a tweet that it has confidentially filed with the SEC to place shares on the stock market. GSV Capital is the top investor in Twitter and reportedly values the internet company at $10.5 billion. Ahead of the IPO, some traders are using GSV Capital as a way to trade Twitter. GSVC shares have been trending higher.
Microsoft is playing a trading game. In a new promotion, Microsoft is offering gift cards worth up to $200 to customers who trade in their iPads at Microsoft stores. Microsoft is hoping shoppers will use that money to buy a Surface tablet.
Here's the economic calendar for this Monday. It's industrial production and capacity utilization for August on the earnings outlook, Cintas and Darden Restaurants. Still to come, the automaker that's almost ready to roll out an IPO. Plus, how cash-strapped drivers are saving spare change by renting car parts. And after the break, how entrepreneurs from Wall Street are dredging up new business. We'll be right back.
Fiat's IPO could roll onto the stock market early next year. Fiat owns nearly 60% of Chrysler and is working to merge the two car companies. The CEO of Fiat says even though the merger process may stall, Chrysler intends to file for initial public offering by the end of the month. United Auto Workers Trust holds a large stake in Chrysler and wants to sell part of it through the IPO by the first quarter.
When you think of rent-to-own, big screen TVs and leather couches might come to mind, but what about tires? The prices are at all-time highs, and consumers short on cash are fueling this booming business. Jackie Keenan reports from Florida.
When Rebecca Kelson needed new tires for her Mustang, she couldn't afford to pay cash. But she found Rent-A-Roll to keep her ride rolling. She's been coming in every 2 weeks to make a payment.
I like the payment plans that they have for you. It's pretty reasonable.
Kelson isn't the only one racing to Rent-A-Roll on payday. The rent-to-own industry's fastest growing segment is the tire and wheel business. Here, customers can get a tire and wheel package and pay it off with weekly payments. But if a weekly payment is $49 and a customer pays for the length of the contract, which is typically 78 weeks, then they end up paying $3,800, more than twice as much as a $1,799 cash price. Customers can turn their wheels back in at any time if they can't make the payment.
You definitely pay more if you don't pay it off early.
CEO Larry Sutton's business is booming. When he started his first Rent-A-Roll in 2000, 70% was focused on flashy rims. Now, tires make up half his business, and Rent-A-Roll is the 17th largest tire dealer in the country. With household income down 5% since 2009 and credit still hard to come by, the recession is playing the largest role in Rent-A-Roll's success. Sutton says his customers simply can't afford to shell out a large amount of cash for tires, but they still have a need to keep their cars safe.
A lot of people that were credit worthy, a lot of people that might have cash because they had a decent job, all of a sudden find themselves in a bad situation. They don't have a job, they don't have any cash, and they don't have any credit, but yet they have to have a decent set of tires.
It's not only the economy that's caused this industry to boom, it's also the cost of manufacturing tires. Gas prices, a worldwide rubber shortage, and tariffs on Chinese tires all caused tire prices to jump by 70% within the last 3 years. The cost of raw materials is now going down, but manufacturers still haven't lowered wholesale prices.
It's come down a little bit, but not even close to where it went up.
Sutton says about half his customers have trouble making payments, but he's rarely had to repossess. Kelson says she definitely doesn't want that and is diligent about paying off her wheels.
So I try to pay more than what I actually owe every 2 weeks, so I can try to hurry up and get it paid.
For First Business News, I'm Jackie Keenan.
The average rent-to-own tire dealer turned a revenue of more than $720,000. Rent and Roll has 66 locations and 11 new franchises opening up in the next year. Coming up, how an entrepreneur gets his inspiration from the bottom of a lake. And stick around for the stock that could be the next Alta. Details are still to come in Chart Talk.
First Business, your source for financial news, analysis, and today's investment ideas. Coming to you daily from Chicago's trading floors, First Business offers a preview of the day's market action, trends in money, and timely consumer news. Don't be left behind. Get your daily dose of the leading financial news stories every morning. It's your money. Watch where it goes. Watch First Business.
Boy, count on the entrepreneurial mind to come up with an intriguing, creative business scheme. Now, here's one I would have never thought could have worked. Harvesting from a lake wood from a century-old logging operation. Yeah, they're dredging up ancient, sunken timber from the bottom of a lake in Maine. Who thought up such an idea? Well, Tom Schaefer and his partner. He co-founded the company, Maine Heritage Timber. Tom, let me ask you, is it the wood that has just an interesting story behind it, or is there something special about the properties of this wood?
Well, it's twofold, Bill. It's number one, there is a very, very majestic story behind it. It's also all virgin first growth timber, which makes it denser, stronger, and that incorporated with what the water does to it and the patinas that it offers makes it a one-of-a-kind product.
Now, how does a long-term specialist on the New York Stock Exchange come up with an idea like this?
I wish I could take the credit for it, Bill. My business partner had done this in 2002, and we met in 2008, and I was looking for a new direction, possibly in manufacturing after being in the service industry for so long. And we got this together, and we raised the money, and now I've gone from Manhattan to Millinocket, Maine, and real proud of it.
Tom, how much wood is down there under the water that you're hauling up each day?
We take out about between 75 and 90 cord of wood. That's about 18 50-yard containers full of wood. So it's quite a bit of wood. We figure we have about 10 years of longevity for this project. The initial estimates are between 500,000 and 1 million cord of wood in the lake.
So how far away are your customers? I mean, there can't be anybody else in the country that's doing this. Where do you do your installations for the wood flooring?
Well, we rely on good NWFA installers to do our installs. We'll ship nationwide. We're in some talks with people in Europe right now to distribute our flooring product. You know, the nice thing about our product is we can get it to any place in the country. We're doing a job in Florida right now as we speak.
Well, Tom Schaefer, fascinating story. I love these entrepreneurial stories. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Just ahead, if you missed the big move in Alta last week, you might have another shot on a different stock. Find out next in Chart Talk. Joining us now, Andrew Keen, president of KeenOnTheMarket.com. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Angie.
You are watching shares of Pier 1. What are you seeing in the options market? What is the option market telling you about this stock?
Yeah, last week it looked pretty strong. You know, it got to this $23 level. We saw a big buyer of the 23 calls in September before earnings. They have earnings on Thursday. And it has actually been underperforming, you know, the market this year. It's only up about 12% year to date. This is specialty retail, but if the consumer's coming back and they're starting to spend money, we saw great earnings out of Alta on Friday, a specialty retail with a high PE. I jumped on board. I bought September 23 calls, October 23 calls. I think the stock can pop through 23 and get up to recent highs of 25.50.
Really? Okay, so you're looking for this to happen in just a couple of months here. This is a very short time frame, correct?
Yeah, they have earnings on Thursday. I've defined my risk versus reward, and the reason, you know, I like to use options because if the stock does roll over, you know, the chart isn't that great. Like I said, it's underperforming the S&P. I can only lose the value of those calls. So I'm not buying stock, but I'm playing them through call options.
And that also keeps you from maybe losing money, as you mentioned, just in case it's a blooper of a number here.
Yeah, I mean, on Friday, when the minute they bought these calls, the stock popped. Looks like it has resistance at 23. If it can break there, I like this. They have a lot of exposure in the United States and Canada. They don't have the exposure overseas. We saw Alta with blowout earnings. I think Pier 1 can get it done this week.
Thanks for bringing that to us today.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today. Coming up tomorrow, why women may be taking a back seat to management positions at big banks. Tips on how to move ahead will be on the Tuesday show. From all of us at First Business, we wish you a great Monday.